Coworker sabotaged my work, so I gathered proof and got him blacklisted in our industry. Just an hour ago, I watched my coworker of 3 years deliberately sabotage my biggest project right in front of our team, smirking as everything I've worked for unraveled. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. He wanted to ruin me. And up until now, he's been getting away with it, but this time, I was prepared. This time, I caught him in the act, and now his career is in shambles because I made sure everyone saw the truth. I work in a competitive tech firm where high-profile projects can make or break your career. I've been at this company for 5 years, and in my current team for 3. My coworker, let's call him Mike, 35M, joined the team around the same time I did. At first, I admired him. He was charismatic, quick on his feet, and everyone in the office seemed to love him. We even got drinks after work a few times in the early days. I never imagined he'd become the source of my nightmares. The first year working together, small things would go wrong with my work at weird times. I'd leave my desk for a few minutes and come back to find code failing or files mysteriously changed. One time I returned from a quick coffee break to find that a chunk of code I had just tested was suddenly failing inexplicably. Another time, an entire section of a spreadsheet I was prepping for a meeting had vanished. Each time I blamed myself or chalked it up to random tech gremlins. Mike would be right there with a sympathetic comment or a joke. Technology, right? It happens to the best of us. I almost believed him. Then things escalated. We both were assigned to a critical project for our new high-profile client. This project was a huge deal for our company. Our team lead made it clear that success would likely mean promotions and raises for those involved. I poured my heart and soul into my portion of the work. Countless late nights, missed weekends, the works. It was exhausting, but I was proud of what I was accomplishing. Mike, on the other hand, often seemed to slack off. He'd leave early, claiming he'd finish up from home, or come in late blaming traffic, all while I covered for both of us more often than I should have. One morning, just days before the client presentation, I came into the office to find chaos. The code repository for our project was corrupted. Not just a bug or two, completely corrupted. Our entire project files were messed up, as if someone had taken a hammer to the data. I panicked. If we lost our progress at that stage, we had no time to recover. My boss was furious, and the client was due for a demo in 48 hours. I could barely breathe thinking my career was about to go down in flames over something I didn't even understand. Everyone scrambled to figure out what had happened. We have pretty robust version control and backup systems, so a total corruption was baffling. Our IT department started investigating possible causes, server issues, external hacks, anything. Meanwhile, I was practically in tears trying to piece together what I could from my own local backups. That's when I noticed something strange. The repository had been manually accessed in the middle of the night, using my credentials. I will never forget the sick feeling in my stomach seeing that log. It looked like I was the one who logged in at 2 a.m. and wreaked havoc on our project. But I was asleep at 2 a.m. Only 2 people had my login credentials. Myself, and, in a gesture of team trust a month prior, I had shared it with Mike during a crunch time so he could help commit some code while I was away. Yes, sharing credentials is against policy. Yes, I was an idiot to ever trust him with it. I immediately confronted Mike that morning in a quiet corner of the office. I was running on panic and anger. I showed him the log and asked why the hell someone using my credentials would be in the repo last night. He shrugged, eyes wide with feigned confusion. "Maybe you were sleepwalking with your laptop," he said, trying to joke, but I could see that little smirk at the corner of his mouth. I was stunned. How could he be so nonchalant? I demanded, "Were you here last night? Did you touch our project?" He got real serious and said, "Don't accuse me of something crazy. Why would I ever do that? We're on the same team, remember?" He even had the gall to look hurt. He walked off, leaving me standing there, heart pounding, with no proof except a suspicious login that I couldn't conclusively pin on him. Our boss was breathing down my neck for answers I didn't have. I could tell he partially blamed me for being careless with security. He wasn't entirely wrong there. We managed to recover most of the project from backups, but we lost precious time, and some pieces had to be rewritten from scratch. I basically lived in the office for the next 2 days to make that client demo happen. For what it's worth, the presentation went okay, but not the knockout success it should have been. It was humiliating to deliver something that I knew was a patched-up shadow of what it was meant to be. I expected Mike to step up, to help fix the mess, especially if he had nothing to do with it. But he did the bare minimum, citing that he wasn't as familiar with the parts that got ruined, even though he had worked on them too. My suspicion was through the roof at this point, but suspicion isn't proof. I even went to our team lead and cautiously suggested that Mike might have inadvertently or intentionally caused the damage. The lead looked at me like I had 2 heads. Mike was one of his favorites. a likable guy who delivered charming presentations and sucked up to management expertly. My boss told me, "I don't want to hear accusations without proof. Focus on fixing it instead of blaming others." I felt embarrassed and defeated. That's when I realized, if I wanted justice, I'd have to get proof myself. I started keeping a detailed log of every odd incident, no matter how small. I wrote down dates, times, what broke or went missing, who was around. A pattern emerged. Nearly every time something of mine got messed up, Mike was not far away. Still, it was circumstantial. I needed something undeniable. So I got sneaky. Our office has security cameras in the main areas but not directly pointed at our individual desks. I knew exactly where the camera blind spots were around my station. Mike likely did too. I decided to use that to my advantage. On a hunch, I intentionally started leaving something tempting out in the open on my desk when I stepped away. A USB drive labeled Project Backup. It was fake, just dummy files, or a printout of some confidential strategy notes with a tiny pencil mark in a corner so I'd know if the pages were moved. Petty bait to see if he'd bite. And bite he did. The USB drive would be plugged in. My system logs showed an access when I returned, even though I never touched it. The papers would be slightly out of alignment from how I left them. This was still not proof of wrongdoing, but it showed someone was snooping at my desk. And I had a damn good guess who. I needed a bigger trap. Something that would catch him red-handed. Finally, an opportunity came. We landed another huge project. Apparently our last client still liked our work despite the hiccups, so they gave us a shot at a follow-up project. I was determined not to let anything, or anyone, screw this one up. My career depended on it. To my surprise, management assigned me as the project lead this time, with Mike working under me on one part. I suspect they did that to appease the client, who specifically praised my individual effort to recover the last project. Mike didn't seem outwardly upset at this demotion in status, but I could sense an undercurrent of resentment. He made a few passive-aggressive jokes like, "Guess I'm taking orders from you now, huh? How the tables turn." This was my chance. I set up the trap meticulously. I arranged with IT to create a dummy server environment just for our project, separate from the main servers. It was identical in every way to the real project environment, but completely isolated and loaded with detailed logging. I told IT the truth, that I suspected someone was tampering with my work. I didn't name names. A friend in IT, I'll call her Jen, understood and helped me quietly. I moved my active development to this dummy environment without telling the team. To everyone else, it looked like I was still working on the main repository, but that was mostly populated with decoy code and files. The real work was done in this sandbox only Jen and I knew about. I also set up a hidden webcam of my own aimed at my workstation. It was discreet, tucked between some books on my shelf, angled to catch anyone typing on my keyboard when I was away. I was nervous about doing this. Technically, it violated some office policy, but I was beyond caring. I needed concrete evidence. For weeks, nothing happened. Part of me wondered if I was just being paranoid, or if maybe Mike got wind that I was onto him. The project was going smoothly. Our client updates were positive. I started to relax a little, thinking maybe he wouldn't dare sabotage me now that I was in charge. Maybe his earlier antics were done out of some twisted competitive urge that he had since gotten over. I was wrong. He was just waiting for the perfect moment. Fast forward to today demo day for the new project, the perfect moment Mike had been waiting for to strike. This was it. If this demo went well, I'd be a hero in the company, likely fast-tracked for that promotion. If it failed, well, I might as well polish up my resume. The pressure was immense, but I was ready. I came in early, triple-checked every aspect of our demo. By the time the meeting was about to start, I felt confident. Excited, even. The conference room was filled with people. Our CEO, the client's representatives, my team, including Mike, and a few others. I began the presentation and live demo of our software. And that's when disaster struck, or at least it was supposed to. As I launched the demo module that Mike had been responsible for coding, instead of the slick functionality we had rehearsed, an error message popped up on screen. A red error message. Then another. The application was crashing, piece by piece. I heard a few gasps. My boss shot me a glare that could kill. My stomach plummeted to my feet. I remember my hands going cold as I tried to keep a neutral face and calmly said, "Excuse me, everyone, 1 second. Seems we're having a technical issue." Behind the scenes, I quickly pulled up the project logs. My personal laptop was connected to the projector, thank God, so I could multitask quietly. The code had been fine yesterday. Something had changed that morning, within the last hour. I flicked my eyes to Mike, who was sitting there looking concerned, but I swear I saw that same damned hint of a smirk. He whispered, "What's going on? Everything okay?" Like he had no idea. But I knew. Little did Mike know he had just triggered my trap card. Because the demo we were running was not from the live codebase I'd been working so hard on. It was from the decoy environment. When I saw the errors, I already suspected sabotage, and now I had the proof at my fingertips. The detailed logs Jen and I set up showed that less than an hour before the meeting, someone logged in and introduced a bug into the code. The login was traced to my credentials again, but now I had extra data. It was done from a machine that wasn't mine. And guess whose machine ID was on the log? Yep, Mike's work laptop leaves a distinct signature on the network, which the logs captured. My heart was pounding, but this time it was with grim vindication. The errors on the screen looked terrible, and the client was shifting uncomfortably. I had to act fast. I gave a quick apology and said we'd switch to a backup system. In reality, all I did was swap the dummy server to point to the real, untouched environment with a few keystrokes. Within 30 seconds, I had the demo running again, this time perfectly. I smiled and addressed the room. Thanks for bearing with us. Minor technical hiccup resolved. The demo continued without a hitch. Though I noticed Mike had gone pale, the presentation ended successfully, but I was seething inside. I was polite to the client as they left, assuring them the glitch was a minor, isolated issue. They seemed satisfied enough given the rest of the demo was solid. As soon as the conference room door closed behind them and the last exec, I rounded on Mike in front of everyone. My team, my boss, whoever was still there. I couldn't hold it in. Someone tried to sabotage the project, I announced, my voice probably louder than it should have been. And I have reason to believe it was internal. A hush fell. Mike shifted in his seat, looking genuinely nervous for the first time. My boss frowned, looking between Mike and me. He cautioned, "That's a serious accusation." "What evidence do you have?" I took a deep breath and said, "The best kind. Hard evidence." I played my trump card. I pulled up the server logs on the big screen for all to see. There, in black and white, were the timestamps and user info of the sabotage that happened pre-demo. And there was Mike's computer ID. His name wasn't literally on it, but everyone knew our machine IDs follow the format of our first initial and last name. E. G. M. Smith laptop for Mike Smith. It was clearly him. The room was dead silent as we all saw it. Mike started stammering immediately. This isn't what it looks like. There must be some mistake. Maybe someone cloned my ID, or I would never do that." He turned red, then pale, then red again. The denial was weak and everyone knew it. I then did something that felt like overkill, but I wanted nails in this coffin. I went to my desk, grabbed the hidden webcam's SD card. I had it ready since I suspected something might happen during the demo while I was out of the conference room, and I dared to play the footage right there on the screen via my laptop. Sure enough, the video, grainy but clear enough, showed Mike sneaking to my station that morning after I went to grab coffee and plugging in a USB, presumably to inject the faulty code or a script into the project. The image showed him on my keyboard, the screen even displaying lines of code. You couldn't read them in the video, but it was obvious what he was doing. There were a couple of audible gasps. One coworker muttered, "Oh my God," under her breath. Mike's face when that video played. I will never forget it. His eyes bulged like a deer in headlights. Then he just exploded. "This is insane, you set me up," he yelled at me, face contorted with fury and panic. He actually lunged across the table, as if to attack me or the laptop. I don't know which. One of our other team members and my boss stepped in front of him, holding him back. Someone shouted to call security. It was a blur. Mike was screaming about how I was a backstabber, how I had always been out to get him, which is laughable given the truth. He hurled obscenities and wild excuses as security guys rushed in to pry him out of the room. It took 2 guards to finally escort him out of the building as he continued to hurl threats and insults at me. The whole time, I just stood there shaking, some mix of triumph, rage, and a tinge of sadness that it had come to this. After he was removed, I had a meeting with HR, my boss, and a couple of upper management folks. I was nervous. Technically, I had broken some rules by setting up that trap without higher approval, especially the camera. But under the circumstances, they were surprisingly understanding. The focus was squarely on Mike's actions. It turned out that while I was scrambling to fix things after the first project incident, someone had anonymously tipped off that client that our delays might have been due to internal negligence. We now suspect that was Mike, trying to undermine me and the company to cover his tracks, or out of sheer spite. That tip nearly cost us that client, and could have caused even more damage if we hadn't recovered. That afternoon, word spread around the office about what happened. You can't keep something like that under wraps. People were shocked. A couple of coworkers approached me privately and confessed that they had noticed odd things too, like Mike subtly discrediting me in conversations, or trying to take credit for some of my ideas in meetings. I wasn't the only one he'd undercut, apparently, but I was his primary target because I was the biggest threat in his mind. He wanted the glory, the promotions, and he didn't care who he had to step on. HR asked me to share all my logs and notes of the past incidents. They are launching a full investigation, and I heard talk of potentially pursuing legal action against Mike for what amounts to sabotage and possibly attempted theft of intellectual property. In our industry, this kind of behavior is career suicide. People talk, especially within specialized fields like ours. My boss, who is pretty well connected in the tech community, was livid that someone under his supervision did this. I have no doubt he has already called a few folks at other companies to warn them about Mike. Now it's late at night, and here I am typing all this out, still in disbelief. I always looked up to those dramatic justice stories on Reddit, never thought I'd have one of my own. It's a strange victory. People keep congratulating me for handling it well, but to be honest, I don't feel like celebrating. I had to become paranoid and sneaky, just to do my job without interference. I had to trap a coworker like a rat. Sure, I won. Mike is gone, and he brought it all on himself. But I keep replaying his face and his words as security dragged him out. He screamed that I would regret this, that it wasn't over. I don't know what he meant by that. Maybe it was just impotent rage. But a part of me worries he might try to take revenge outside of work, or attempt to sabotage me in the wider industry somehow. Maybe I'm overthinking it. He has no power now, right? All I know is I'm damn tired. Tired of the mind games. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tomorrow, I have to go back into the office without that cloud over my head, and that's a relief. But the whole thing has left me feeling drained and, oddly, a bit hollow. I should be happy he got what was coming to him, and part of me is. But another part of me is just sad that this is what our workplace came to. That a person I once grabbed beers with turned into this enemy lurking in plain sight. Anyway, I'm not sure what comes next. Maybe I'll take a few days off to clear my head. I'll definitely be more careful about who I trust going forward. For now, I'm just grateful that the nightmare at work is over. At least I hope it's over. Because if Mike somehow finds a way to strike back, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. I'll post an update if anything more happens, but I really hope this is the end. Update 1. I thought exposing Mike would end the nightmare. I was dead wrong. Only a week has passed, and the fallout is hitting me from angles I never expected. The very next morning, after my last post, I walked out to my car to find the windshield smashed and deep scratches keyed across the doors. My stomach dropped. It felt like a message more than random vandalism. Nothing was stolen, no other cars on my street were touched. I just stood there shaking, knowing in my gut who was behind it. I filed a police report, of course. Without witnesses or camera footage, there wasn't much they could do beyond note it down. I couldn't prove it was Mike, but I was almost certain. The timing, the targeted nature of the damage, it screamed retaliation. That day I also started getting calls from unknown numbers that would hang up as soon as I answered. Probably him, trying to mess with me. I stopped answering any call from a number I didn't recognize. A couple of days later, I received an email that made my blood boil. It was from a former client of ours, asking if some wild rumors online were true. Rumors? I had no idea what they were talking about. The client kindly forwarded me a link, and my heart pounded as I clicked it. It was a post on a tech industry forum, anonymously accusing me of fabricating the sabotage incident to cover my own incompetence. The poster, who I'm 100% sure is Mike, given the writing style and very specific details only someone from our company would know, claimed that I had actually been the one messing up projects, and that I framed an innocent coworker, him, to save my job and ruin his career. The sheer brazen gall of that lie made me lightheaded. He was trying to flip the script and paint himself as the victim and me as the villain. I immediately contacted my boss in HR about it. They were already aware. A few industry colleagues had seen the post and reached out to our company to ask what was going on. Thankfully, management was unequivocally on my side. Our HR had the libelous post taken down within a day by sending a cease and desist. It was full of defamatory claims and confidential work info. But I know how the internet works. The stain of those accusations had already started spreading in small circles. A couple of peers at other firms, whom I used to chat with, are suddenly giving me the cold shoulder. And one of our potential new clients that was in talks with us has now paused discussions. My boss delicately told me it's because they caught wind of some internal controversy and want it sorted out before moving forward. In other words, Mike's smear campaign is starting to cost us business. Cost me professionally. I've never felt so angry and helpless. We did everything right, exposing his sabotage, and yet here I am, watching this lunatic try to burn down my reputation out of pure spite. After the forum incident, I beefed up my personal security. I installed a security camera on my front porch. Why I hadn't sooner, I don't know. I guess part of me didn't think he'd go that far. I also started checking my car every morning before driving off, paranoid he might have tampered with it. So far, aside from the initial vandalism, no further damage. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, yesterday I received a letter, an official letter, from a law firm representing Mike. He's threatening to sue me and the company for defamation and wrongful termination. The letter accuses me of orchestrating a malicious campaign to damage Mike's career and claims I presented false evidence to get him fired. It demands we enter discussions for a settlement, or else they'll proceed to court. When I read that, I laughed out loud, a manic, hysterical laugh. The claims are absurd. We have him dead to rights with video and digital evidence. But after my laughter died, the reality set in. This is going to be a legal nightmare. Even if his case has no merit, we can't ignore it. I spent my evening on the phone with our company's legal team and a lawyer of my own. The company's stance is that they'll fight it vigorously. They're as livid as I am about his false accusations, but a part of me is absolutely terrified. Lawsuits are lengthy, expensive, and public. Even a whisper of this kind of allegation could tarnish my professional image for years if it isn't swiftly disproven. I barely slept last night, jumping at every unexpected noise. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. The stress is eating me alive. This morning we had a meeting with the company's attorneys. They assured me that truth is on our side and Mike's claims are baseless. They plan to countersue him for damages and have even involved law enforcement to look into the vandalism and online harassment. There may be ways to trace those anonymous messages back to him, which would demolish his case and possibly get him in criminal trouble. That gave me a sliver of hope. Still, the fact that I'm even in this situation makes me feel sick. It's like Mike is determined to make me pay, one way or another, for outing him. He's lost his job and apparently his mind, and now he seems hell-bent on dragging me down with him. I'll fight this, whatever it takes. I'm documenting everything, every call, every weird incident, and my company is behind me, which is the only reason I haven't completely lost it. But I won't lie. I'm exhausted and scared. This isn't the closure I hoped for. It feels like I'm stuck in a nightmare I can't wake up from. I don't know what's going to happen next. The lawyers are prepping to respond to his threats, and I'm bracing myself for a long battle. Part of me worries that even if I win, I'll have lost something in the process, my peace of mind, at the very least. I'll update again when I have more news or if something else crazy happens. For now, I'm just trying to keep it together and not let this consume my every waking moment. It's hard, but I'm doing my best. To be continued? Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and I finally have some closure, though it came at a price. To put it bluntly, Mike's lawsuit backfired on him spectacularly, but not before he dragged me through absolute hell. From the moment his lawyers filed the suit, my company's legal team went on the offensive. We countersued for defamation, and the amount of evidence we compiled against Mike was staggering. Over those weeks, I had to sit through depositions and meetings where every detail of this saga was rehashed. It was exhausting and surreal to hear Mike's attorney present a version of events that was pure fiction. But the real fireworks began when Mike himself had to give a deposition under oath. Mike started off cocky and defiant in that deposition, according to my lawyer who relayed the play-by-play to me. He stuck to his lies about how I supposedly set him up. That confidence didn't last long. The company's attorneys methodically presented him with our evidence. First, the network logs Jen from IT helped gather, proving the sabotage came from his computer and credentials. Next, they showed time-stamped security camera footage from the office corridors, clearly showing him sneaking toward my desk area on the morning of the demo. And of course, they had my video, the crowning jewel. Despite his lawyer's attempts to object, the footage of Mike at my desk that morning, with him typing away on my machine, was played. Witnessing his reaction was vindicating. My lawyer said Mike's face went through a series of contortions, disbelief, anger, panic. He tried to claim the video was deep fake or doctored, an argument that fell flat given the multiple angles of evidence lining up. His own lawyer looked like he wanted to sink through the floor as the truth became undeniable. Apparently, the deposition devolved into a shouting match. Mike lost his temper. Again. He yelled at the lawyers, accused me and the company of conspiring against him, and refused to answer some questions, even as his own attorney begged him to shut up. It got so bad that the mediator warned him he'd be held in contempt if he continued that way in court. In short, Mike obliterated any credibility he might have had. Within a week of that fiasco, his lawyers moved to withdraw the lawsuit entirely. My company's lawyers suspect Mike's own legal counsel likely threatened to drop him if he didn't back down, especially with our countersuit and possible criminal charges looming. Yes, you read that right. Criminal charges. Remember the vandalism and the online harassment? The police didn't drop those. Thanks to some digital forensic work, they traced the anonymous forum posts and messages back to Mike's home IP address. Combine that with the timing of my car incident, a neighbor's security camera even caught a silhouette matching Mike near my driveway that night, And the police have enough evidence to charge him with vandalism and cyber harassment. Last I heard, there's an active warrant out for his arrest because he failed to show up for a police interview. It seems Mike decided to skip town once his lawsuit imploded. So as of now, Mike has effectively vanished. His lawsuit is dead, his professional reputation is destroyed, and now he's potentially a fugitive on top of everything. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel some grim satisfaction at this downfall. But honestly, more than anything, I'm just tired. The damage he managed to do is still being repaired. Those rumors he spread have taken on a life of their own in some corners of the industry. It will take time to fully squash them. My company did win back that hesitant client after providing proof of what really happened, and showing that the whistleblower was a vindictive fraud. And yes, I got that promotion, though it feels oddly hollow right now. After all the adrenaline and chaos, I'm left emotionally exhausted. The week after everything concluded, I found myself bursting into tears at random moments. Not out of sadness or joy, but sheer release of tension. My employer insisted I take some paid leave, and I'm currently on a much-needed break. I also started seeing a therapist to deal with the anxiety and trust issues this whole ordeal spawned. I'm not ashamed to admit I need help processing everything. Do I feel safe now? Honestly, I'm getting there. Knowing Mike likely won't pop up at work or outside my house tomorrow helps a lot, but I still double-check my locks every night. I still flinch when I get an unexpected call or hear an odd noise outside. It's probably going to be like this for a while. Wounds don't heal overnight.